Neat Nation, you beautiful assembly of bourbon geeks. It's good to see you guys, sort of, through the camera today. It's going to be fun to drink bourbon and talk about what's been going on this summer with the whiskey releases. There have been a decent amount of fun releases, I felt like. Not only the absolute bangers that we'll talk about tonight, but also some more like low-key stuff, like Pursuit Series or Pursuit United. Batch 2 just dropped. Mm-hmm. That's sick. And then the Stellam lineup from Barrel Craft Spirits, the bourbon and rye. Gosh, what else? Do they have anything else? I mean, they're doing picks. Sealbox just launched a Stellam pick that's probably sold out already. But so anyway, short story, make a long story short, initially, lots of fun releases over the summer. And the barrel picking scene is kind of going crazy too, it feels like. Every store, every restaurant, and then every bourbon group, not to mention YouTube channels, are trying to do picks because we know that that's how you get great whiskey at a reasonable price. It's just not a secret anymore. It's not low key. It's definitely popular. So hopefully places are able to keep up with the demand for that. But I'm getting way ahead of myself tonight. Brian, say hello to the people.
Hello to the people. And before we get too far, we have to let you all know that this episode is once again sponsored by High Noon Sun Sips. It is the gluten-free, no added sugar, 100-calorie drink of the lifetime.
The sponsorship would make sense, as I also have. I might just go get a High Noon and just go easy on the whiskey tonight, just to make it, officially unofficial. But a sponsorship would make sense. For sure.
Here we go.
Oh, nice. I just
pop.
I really like drinking whiskey. It's hard for me to say no to that. It's only when I'm like out grilling or it's kind of an assembly that I tend to bring out the High Noons or the Trulies. Also on the golf course I'll do that.
Got to mix everything here.
I like to take a little sippy sip of bourbon. It just feels right.
I got some like the potpourri. We've got my favorite summer beer. We've got my favorite summer seltzer, and we've got a little bit of Four Roses.
So you're triple fisting. So here's the thing. High Noon does have fruit juice in it, and I find that makes it very difficult for me to perceive flavors up in whiskey. You don't have that battle?
No, I don't have battles, dude.
So we had this discussion too. What else were we talking about? Oh, I was talking about having, like off weeks with the palate. And you're like, no, that never happens. Like, it's just basic science, though, that your palate gets numb. Or is your palate basically like Batman? And he just, he just keeps doing his Batman thing.
I think he just keeps doing his Batman thing, man. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? We're going to
not all the time. Not all the time.
Great idea. I got all this, the next order of shirts ready to go. That dank bourbon time shirt. I just have to hit send. I have to pay for it. But a good one would be a picture of Brian's tongue that says Batman, like Batman, or like a tongue with a cape on it. It says Batman. We're just gonna name your tongue Batman.
Oh my gosh,
it feels good. It feels
funny.
like a very natural, entry-proof kind of bit to run.
Yeah. I have lost my chat. I had the chat somewhere. I've got to find it. There it is. There's the chat back.
Yeah, we got lots of folks up in the chat. Total classic folks here. Of course, our amazing wrench, Tom Lynch. We got William Wiley up in the chat. Carlos Rivero. Good to see you guys. We got Porkins, Andrew Beck in the house. And then some names I don't recognize. John Pets. But I think I've seen John actually in here before. What's up, John? Kenny Killingsworth. That would be one maybe I've seen once or twice, too. Glad to see you. Elsa, who's a hero of mine, helped me score the Pfeiffer Pavitt XO. So, Elsa, glad you made it tonight, for sure. And then we've got plenty of other people who haven't joined in the chat. Y'all feel free. Don't be shy. If you're watching and you want to jump in and chat along or throw down questions, that's what we're here for. We're here to hang out, talk whiskey. This is definitely a participative show. This is a, first or long-time listener, first-time caller type of episode we're running today. So feel free to get in here and throw out some whiskeys that you think belong in our hot whiskey summer rundown. And then, of course, any questions. Just make sure you at us so it's easier to see, because I, for one, as you know, tend to just get talking and I forget to look at the chat. So we're 6 minutes in. It's time for our standard buffet of bits to get things rolling. And you already did it. I was going to ask, what are you drinking, Brian? But you already gave us the rundown. You've got your sun sips.
I mean, I could get into my Four Roses. So I had this is from a run that I've been collecting, and I don't have this particular one, but a friend let me have a sample of it this past weekend when we were camping out for some whiskey.
Nice.
It is a Four Roses Oesf. It's 12 years 7 month, so pretty old, honestly. And it's from the HW55 run, fourth floor barrel G, 121.4 proof.
Ex Chili Palmer, first time here. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you dig.
Welcome.
This is definitely more free form than the other videos that Brian and I do. Tim, thanks for joining, man. And then our boy, kindred spirit, Kyle Ramage. What's up, Kyle? Good to see you, dude. We need to arrange a time to actually assemble again, Kyle, because you live so far away.
Well, man, on that note, too, I had a guy ask me recently when we're going to do a meetup. I was like, Drew's like going to be coming down here in a couple of weeks. He's like, no. Like a meetup where like you two schedule a time where like viewers and listeners can come meet at a designated spot. And I was like, we should talk about it.
Yeah.
And we haven't yet, but I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to throw down in the chat here or even in the comments below, if you end up watching this later, not live, would that be something you'd be interested in? I mean, that'd be expensive as crap because you'd have to get there. You have to get a hotel or Airbnb or whatever. But, I mean, we could definitely do something. I talked about doing a golf trip, but I know that not everybody's into that. But we could do something, but we could schedule basically what I did with my dad and my brother, just without the golf, where it's about food and bourbon and stuff.
For sure.
And then we could rent a large Airbnb for I don't know. Like, I think we could do something pretty cool with it. But we'd have to have some hardcore geeks that were, willing to, pay for stuff. Not like they have to pay for our food or anything, but you got to get there. You got to pay for your own food. And then, everybody brings bottles to share, kind of a deal. But we could probably do a really cool kind of roundtable style pod/episode. So anyway, if you're interested in that, let us know. You just can't be a serial killer or anything. Although I suppose that would be the place you would want to be if you were a serial killer.
But if you are going to be a serial killer before that, please sign up to patreon.com/inchproof and be like a high member. Like jump in like feet first. You know what I'm saying?
If you're going to kill us, you might as well like pay out.
Because then at least our wives can get a little something.
Sure. Sure. There's not there's not an entry-proof life insurance policy at this point.
Right. But that could be it if you are a serial killer. So thank you for supporting us in that way.
Kyle's got.
All right, Drew, what are you drinking?
All right. Yeah. Because but that was a great idea. We're going to file that away in our list of good ideas, our suggestion box. I took a tiny little sip of my Polish rye from Obtainium to get started. And then I've got actually the sample that Tom left at our Airbnb from Middle West, one of the barrels we didn't pick. So this was barrel 0486. So I was just giving a little taste and seeing how it held up. I might taste the barrel we did pick.
Dude, mine's gone.
Just a little bit. I drank most of it, but I wanted to hit it one more time, get that full palate experience.
I want to remember it.
Okay. Well, you will be able to soon, hopefully. Rudra and Blake did connect, so they're working on it.
Let's go.
This is barrel 1650 something. The numbers have come off, but Squad. This is a 4-grain from Middle West Spirits that tasted phenomenal. Our boy Tom in the chat, he knows, he was there. Also, Cameron from Drums and Drams, he joined us. We're like, Cameron, why don't you come? So he came. And this is a great pick. Will be available to Patreon supporters. The link to support the show via Patreon is just below the screen here. If you're not doing that already and you want to get dank entry-proof picks, that's how you do it.
Yeah, so, we mentioned this with the Starlight picks. No pressure. Either way, we love producing content for you guys. Either way, that's what Drew and I do via the podcast and our individual channel streams. However, we do have a Patreon set up, and the main fuel for that is to continue to put some of these videos out, the content, as it's our side thing. It's our side thing. However, we've been able to secure some picks, as folks know, from the first 2 Starlights, Middle West, and I think we have like 3 more that are lined up. Maybe a couple others we could talk about later.
Yeah, there's a couple ideas, but we're just trying to make sure we don't over obligate ourselves, because
now what's interesting about this one, we talked at Middle West, and there will be fewer bottles of this one than I think we thought going into it. And we're going to open it up to our squad on Patreon. As we have fewer Patreon members, it's likely that on a stream following Patreon members buying their share of bottles, we'll open it up and say, hey, nation, go get whatever's left. In this particular case, it's a little low yielding, and we're going to open up on our Patreon first, and then we're going to let Cam from Drums and Drams throw it to his folks as well, since he was a part of that as well. So I'm just saying, if you're interested in the Middle West pick, which I don't see very many or any of, that being a Patreon of us or Cam's channel might, in this particular case, be your only way to get it. But Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. All right, moving on from that. Kyle says TLDR this pick. I don't know that acronym. What does TLDR mean?
He wants to know about the pick without hearing the whole story behind it.
What does he want to know? What does TLDR mean?
Too long didn't read.
Oh. Okay, whatever. Anyway, it's good. That's the end of the story. All right, Brian, what did you pick up this week?
Man, it's been busy. I mean, it's not even been a week, because we haven't done a chat in a while.
It's been 3 weeks, since we went live.
So I mean, I got several things, and they're all near me, so I'm going to get into them pretty quickly. Recently, Justin's House of Bourbon, they did a bourbon festival pick, and this Elijah Craig was one of them. It's the standard 94 proof Elijah Craig, but if you know me, Elijah Craig picks are one of my go-tos because they're inexpensive and they drink, really well. This one is 13 years old, and I popped it, and it's got phenomenal flavor. We'll talk more about that a little later on, but I got that. I picked up a couple of Nashville Bourbon Company, a Nashville Barrel Company bourbons. So a group that I'm in locally did a 7-year pick, and this thing is pretty tasty. But then they came out. I want to see if you can notice this. They started putting out some 5-year picks in the gift shop. Can you guys tell the color difference between these two?
Yeah, just hold it more up to your left, a little more.
This is not color playing tricks on me because my face is behind it. I mean, it's
hold it up behind the white wall. It's my right. Maybe you can tell. Yeah, you can definitely tell the one on my.
So these 5 years,
on the right.
I mean, in a glass, these 5 years look as dark as this. It's just super dark. This one right here, lots of brown sugar and oak. This 5-year is like coconut and sweet, a little bit hotter. Really enjoyable. So anyway, got a couple of those, and then picked up a couple of these OKI picks. OKI 6-year stuff. So probably same stuff that you're seeing in the Nashville Barrel Company is they're starting to drop here in town, and a couple of different stores got these picks. But again, look at these. Look at the color difference on those.
That's
again,
insane.
These are both 6-year picks. You can tell that this one right here, maybe you can't, 157 bottle yield. This one's like 194. So it just kind of shows you those small barrels or those honey barrels or those leaky barrels, a little bit of that extra oomph it gets when it has some little less juice in there. You can see this through the video.
Yep.
Behind me. But
Kyle, we'll talk more about OKI in just a smidge. For sure. Because we'll get there. Good question.
So yeah, that's a lot. I picked up a lot since we talked last. So
yeah, I did my video. If you guys didn't catch it, I said, what did I pick up in Kentucky or on my Kentucky trip? You can go and watch that. The ones I'm most excited about from that trip probably are that Boone County 8-year weeded and the Blue Run 14, which the Blue Run was a seal box purchase that I just picked up on the trip. But
you popped that yet?
I am not. No. Then this week, I actually, getting back, I was like, well, I didn't really score anything super allocated, which is fine, outside of, I got things I couldn't get in Wisconsin, but nothing super allocated. But then, like my first trip into, the store where I have a good relationship, I got Michter's 10 Rye 2021, bada bing, bada boom. Very small batch of that this year, from what I understand. Not that it's a batch, it's a single barrel, but a small allocation of barrels to the Michter's 10 Rye. Got one of those. And then I also got Baumburgers and Shanks. So I'm flush with Michter's right now. Very flush. I did swap. I had an extra Michter's 10 Bourbon, which I love, but I swapped it for a Blanton straight from the barrel as well. So I have not had that. That's a bottle that's been on my wish list for quite some time, that I was thrilled to actually get one of. So this will be a fun one at some point to pop. And yeah, it feels like a successful couple of weeks. I'm also having some problems with my drain tile in my house. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But then I'm like, well, at least I have some inventory. If I need to liquidate, take a big box to a vintage spirits dealer somewhere.
I see that Eric Sawyer is joining, so this is a good time to mention that this episode is sponsored by High Noon Sun Sips, the no added sugar, 100 calorie, gluten-free vodka and soda mango goodness of the current life. Thank you, High Noon, for supporting the channel, and thank you, Eric, for being a Neat Nation member.
I feel like it's the business law classes in me that I feel compelled every time you say we're sponsored by High Noon. We're not actually sponsored by High Noon. Brian said, "Hey, why don't you throw on the thumbnail tonight that we're sponsored by High Noon?" And I said, "Well, how about we do it on the the backdrop?" And then, but I even had to put "but not really" on there, because even when I say unofficially sponsored, it's I just don't really. I have a phobia of being sued, so I really don't want to be sued.
If anybody's watching this on their computer and they have their cell phone handy, just send the link of this at High Noon, because I so badly want this sponsorship to happen. So
all right, well, if you say, well, let's do this then. Say I need you to say audibly, you accept all liability for the ramifications of such a post.
You just said that.
No, I need you to say that.
I'm not going to say it, but you said it.
No.
In playback, your voice definitely said that line, so it's fine.
This is not good. Anyway, it looks like Porkins scored Jack Daniels Barrel Pick, Pursuit United, Remus 5, which I way to be. Blends and a Smoke Wagon.
Nice.
SMWS. Is that Smoke Wagon?
Smoke. No, I don't know, dude.
Yeah. Porkins, what is that, man? That's SM. Smooth. No. Come on. Why am I struggling here? I know most of the acronyms, but I'm lost on that one. Bummer. Well, let us know. A couple other good pickups here. It looks like Carlos found a Discovery 4. I thought those were pretty much all gone. Way to be.
That's what's up.
I'm just waiting for the Russell's Reserve 13. I'm hoping. It's still not been released in Wisconsin yet. I know it hasn't hit Ohio yet. So I did taste that. Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about hot whiskey summer now, squad. As I mentioned, it's been a fun summer for whiskeys. Granted, these will probably show up in the fall because the super allocated stuff tends to show up around Christmas time. Russell's Reserve 13. Let's start there. Brian, you were able to score one of these almost immediately, right? After.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did pay for it. When I talked to Dave Jennings about it, he if you read his review on it, his whole tangent about people spending too much and yada yada yada. I'm pretty sure the whole thing was spawned just because I told him what I paid for this bottle. Now, when it first came out, and I will admit to this because I did. When it first came out, a buddy and I split a bottle of Russell's 13 from the local secondary for $200.
Okay.
So $100 a piece for half a bottle. And mainly because, you know, we like Russell's, and I didn't like 02 release. I did like the 03 release. I didn't like the Wild Turkey Bottled & Bond 17-year release. And so we're mainly trying to figure out, is it going to be worth chasing or is it not going to be worth chasing? And I figured that's worth it to figure it out. And honestly, I had it. No one else had it. The guy was local, but he got it from Indiana. And so he was here in Louisville. So this is 4 weeks before Louisville saw it. And so everyone that during the Starlight cigar release and everything, I mean, I'm pouring that whole half bottle that I had was shared with folks so that they could try it for the first time. And yeah. Well, so that's how I got one.
Nice. I tasted it at Bardstown. They had just gotten their bottle for their bar, Bardstown Bourbon Company. So I got a good size pour, probably 1.5 ounces for $12, and really enjoyed it. My palate was probably a little shot at that point as well. It was still really nice. So I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to try and get one. Carlos, I had thrown up his comment, was saying that his local store is saying they're going to charge $300. That is crazy. That's above secondary, and that's just bleh. So I understand why they would do that. Some person will pay that, not me. Brian, what do you think a reasonable, if somebody else commented earlier, maybe it was William or somebody else mentioned that they had gotten one for $90, which is great. Yeah. Like, I think that's reasonable. MSRP,
I'd pay $100. I'd pay $100 all day for it.
Sure.
Because if there's a good Russell store pick that isn't in production anymore, if somebody lets me buy it for $100, I'm happy. You know what I'm saying? It's not made anymore. So my top on this bottle is probably higher than a lot of people's. But
is this gonna be a douchebag moment?
No, not really. I would top it. I would top it 200 on this bottle.
I'd be tempted. I hope I don't have to pay that, but I'd be tempted.
Because I think you've talked before about you'd go up to 150 on Stag Junior. And I personally think it runs laps around Stag Junior. Now it's different. It's a different pour. Buffalo Trace products have that honey, that brown sugar, that fruit. Russell's is a different product.
Yeah.
But I would put it actually I haven't done it against Discovery 4. So it's hard to say. But what was the price on the Lux? Is it Lux Row? Yeah, the Lux Row 12-year.
Well, I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, that's where I would top out. Do I want to pay that? No. I guess what I'm saying is, like, I'd probably figure it out if I found one that and below.
Yeah, I don't know that I would go to hundo. Just compared to, like, I could go get 3 Russell's Reserve store picks, which I need to go see if there's another one of those. If you live in and around Milwaukee, I picked up a Russell's pick about a month and a half ago from Total Wine Greenfield, and it was awesome. It's gone already. It was phenomenal. So if there's any more, you should go get one, but just make sure that I got another one first. I need to get over there and pick one up because it was awesome. Anyway, so yeah, I guess given the competition, it's and anymore, like, gosh, I have so much whiskey, like, so it's like, but I really want, like, in terms of the bottles I'd love to score this year, of course, Parker's, whatever that'll be, Four Roses, LE, BTAC, of course I want those, but my shot at those are so slim. This is going to be one of the bigger bangers that I probably have a shot at getting. So we'll see what happens. Porkins says, I expect our R13 to be $100 before tax in Washington. Yeah, I think that I'm definitely in at that. Regular Russell's picks are 75. Rare breed is 40. So I killed my Russell's Reserve store pick from Total Wine last night, and I popped. Well, 2 nights ago, I popped the rare breed, and I did a side-by-side. And I really like rare breed, this 116.8 batch. I really liked it. But that store pick was just loads better. You know, sometimes it's not fair to drink a whiskey next to another whiskey because that store pick was so exquisite that it made the rare breed taste less refined, put it fairly simply. So yeah, also you got a big props to the branding department at Wild Turkey because that bottle with the blue and the gold, it was hot. It was about as good looking of a bottle as Russell's or as Wild Turkey is put together. Of course, their Master's Keep bottles are also super dank, so maybe they just crush at that game. The boxes are way too big though. Like the Master's Keep boxes are just absurdly large. Okay. Let's talk Blue Run next because we've already talked Blue Run a little bit. Brian, why don't you pitch your videos and do a little recap because you've actually kind of you've talked the living daylights out of Blue Run. I'm gonna grab another bottle. Yeah. Oh, real quick before you do Blue Run, guys, I just tasted that barrel pick we did again. I'm so happy with it. I was glad we had a little extra of the sample to carry with so I could taste it, you know, on nights when I was tasting other things. Really, really good stuff. I continue to be impressed with what Middle West Spirits is doing. Okay, let's talk about Blue Run. Go.
Yeah, so I mean, anyone who, if they haven't seen my videos, go over to youtube.com, I think, /AbandonBourbon, or just look up some of my videos. I've done a little bit about the 13, the 14, and then one of the 13 and a half single barrels in like a blind. I have done a tasting of several different barrels of the 13 and a half year single barrels, like 3 different ones. And then just recently was able to try their new upcoming fall release, which is going to be a rye. And, you know, I like them as a brand. I do think that they're hitting the marketing thing kind of like Old Carter did, kind of like Kentucky Owl did. And kind of other brands too, but kind of going that route. I've liked what I've tried, and honestly, I did a blind when I did the 13 and a half, and 14 blind. I also did a second blind the next day for Patreon members. That was interesting to see the results on that video, or maybe not. I don't know. Join Patreon to find out. But you know, I still don't exactly know where the juice is from. I want to assume it's Barton. However, I thought that Jim Rutledge's tie with Cream of Kentucky was Barton. And I also thought I saw someone say that it was a different source than what he was doing for Cream of Kentucky. So I don't exactly know. The thing that it's interesting is that, oh yeah, he was not a fan, man. Well, he came to the pick with us, and he had just opened it. He was like, "Yeah, man, I'm not a
Mash and Drum didn't come to our pick."
Oh, sorry. Cam also from Drums and Drams had tried it before coming to our pick and was saying,
"Well, I need somebody that. Do you have an open bottle? Can you send me a sample before I pop mine?"
I've not gotten one for myself. No, I just tried to. Buddy, let me borrow a bottle for the video.
I'll hit up Cam then. Maybe we'll do a sample swap.
So Andrew Beck is asking, how much better is Blue Run than the Calumet Sam Houston? Same source, similar ages, but Calumet Sam Houston are half the price. Okay, this is the question that I still wrestle with. It's the same. No, it's the same thing like you were talking about why would I spend X amount? Why would I spend X amount for Russell's 13 if I could buy? You just said 3 Russell's Reserves. I also did a video where I did a blind of a couple of Russell's picks, 3 Russell's picks and Russell's 13. And to me, Russell's 13 is still clearly the winner. So I still have a hard time sometimes with the cost justification because I can see the logic, but I just don't always jive with it. Like, I really like drinking good whiskey. I also like drinking some cheaper stuff. But I don't know that I would always choose to get 90% good just because it's cheaper. Personally.
Sure. If you can have
Now,
100% good, you mean?
correct. And the reason I bring that up is because so going back to Andrew's question, I have tried. I have it right here. I have the Calumet 14. I've not had the 15, and I know the Bourbon Junkies mentioned that the 15 was better. I had the Calumet 14, and I had the Sam Houston 15, and I did not like either of those products. They tasted earthier. They tasted a little bit more disjointed. Now, I haven't done a blind of the three of them together, and I always would prefer doing a blind. I just don't have the bottles to do the access. So I do drink cheap stuff, Kyle. Come on now. I guess what I'm getting at is what makes it difficult. I don't want to tell you you should spend $200 on a Blue Run 14. I don't want to say that.
Tough thing to tell somebody.
Yeah, it's super tough. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is I wouldn't rather tell you to buy Calumet or Sam Houston for $100 because I think that would be more of a waste of money than $200 on the Blue Run 14. Personally, that's like saying, why would I buy Russell's 13 if I could buy 4 bottles of JTS Brown? Like, well, you get more whiskey, but like, what's the benefit of drinking? Like, I don't drink just to drink and just to get drunk. I drink because I like the flavor.
Says the guy who's triple fisting.
Okay,
but no,
this is a good time to introduce that. This is no
sponsored by High Noon. No, I totally hear what you're saying because I completely agree.
I don't want to get on a soapbox. I don't want to get on a high horse. It's
we're gonna get.
I think about it all the time.
Who watch this like 2 weeks from now, and they're gonna be like, "You like we've gotten comments like that." Let me just clarify. Like, this is a show for whiskey geeks, and again, it's not gospel. It's just like that's Brian's perspective on what he buys.
And I
tend to share it. Like, I mean, I drink a lot of Knob Creek picks, Henry McKenna, Eagle Rare. Love the snot out of that stuff. Russell's Reserve. So, like, my general bottle price is like $50 to $60. That said, when I have the opportunity to buy something rare and really special, I generally go for it. Like, if I can get it close to MSRP, because I really enjoy that stuff and it makes a killer special occasion, like, popping Stag 2019 with my bro and my dad on the trip a couple weeks ago. It was awesome.
Right.
And you can do that with a lot of bottles.
I feel like the biggest critique, if you want to call it a critique, that I've heard of Russell's 13 is some people saying it's not better than a really good store pick. And I don't doubt that necessarily. It's just always follow
different though.
My follow-up question is just always, well, what picks? Because I've not really had any that had the same flavor profile or that had that much enjoyment, but I would be curious about it because I would like to drink those. If so, like, so when I did my blind, this one right here is a Lexington group, this Raisins at Play. This didn't beat Russell's 13 in the blind, but it had similar flavors. It was just softer. So this would be one that I would say, like, yeah, I really like this. This is probably at this point in time one of my favorite Russell's straight up picks. But I still really enjoy the complexity and flavor that is more emphasized in the 13 than that. Just personal preference.
Michael asked about doing a video like the 5 whiskeys to buy if you have $500, like, which would be a fun video. The hard thing would be $500 at a regular liquor store or $500 on the secondary market, which I don't normally support. I like to work trades. I try and avoid buying stuff on there just because you guys know it's an ethical dilemma. But that would be well, I'll think about that, dude. Slide into my Instagram DMs. I can certainly throw you some suggestions if you're just, and we can dialogue.
That's why I feel like it's hard because, like exactly what you said too, when it comes to price, because of the secondary market, because it exists, price and value are just so like tightly woven together, but mean slightly different things. Like I could get a Weller 12 for $40 retail. Not easily, but if I did, you could trade one for a Russell's 13. So it's now harder for me to talk about what its justified price is if I could be $40 into it by swapping somebody who just really likes Weller.
Yeah. And I think that's a great. I would do that all day. Like if I had bought Weller 12 for $100, I would trade it for Russell's 13. After having tasted both, I'm just not a Weller 12 guy. Like it's kind of cool to have. I had one bottle and I traded it because I was like, I know that I'm not going to enjoy this as much as the stuff I got. Which guess what I got for it? Friggin' bomb burgers and a Four Roses barrel strength, dude. It was awesome.
Highlight this comment real quick by PSF Hybrid. This is really interesting. So also talking about drinking high-end stuff and not a lot of daily drinkers. I feel like I've got a decent mix of those, but he's bowing out on keeping up with these 130, 200 source bottles. This is what I think the biggest problem is with things right now. You have the opposite directions. You have source stuff that's commanding way too much.
Yeah,
but because 100%. of what they're doing, or because of fear of missing out, whatever it is, people are buying it, and people in the trend it will exist as long as people do that. But then you have 5 and 6 year MGP that's not following a $10 per year rule either. It's $80 for a 5 year. It's $80 for a 6 year. Now, okay, it's only $20 more than the rule, but what about Remus? What about Redemption? What about Old Scout?
I've talked enough about Remus and Redemption. Like those are my dude. Okay, so I popped the 10-year rye. Tom Lynch knows this, guys. If you're around Total Wines, some of them still have Redemption barrel strength 10-year rye for like $90. It's so good. Like, what are we even talking about here with Blue Run? Although, we both you have some and I have some. But like, if it's a question of do I buy Blue Run at 200 or I buy Redemption 10-year rye at 90, you're buying that Redemption squad. Like, I'm just making this decision for you because it's a way better value.
And let me just interject.
We're way off the rails already.
No,
it took us 38 minutes to get off.
No, dude. As much as I did kind of soapbox a little bit about Blue Run in comparison to Calumet or whatever, I'll even take a step further and say, don't get any of that stuff. I was telling you, like I was telling him off air, and I'll tell you all right now, this 13-year Elijah Craig. Now,
which we'd all love to have. Yeah.
They don't come around all that often. I don't want to make it seem like it's an easy thing to get. 94 proof, 13-year Elijah Craig, half the cost of a retail Russell's 13. And I'm pretty sure this is a better bottle than Russell's 13. I'm pretty sure that both of these Nashville Barrel Company bottles, and what was the other thing that I tried? The Stellam Bourbon. All of these, the other day, my buddy came over, and I had the Russell's 13. I had some of that Elijah Craig. I had some of these Nashville Barrel Companies. I had a Peerless bottle that was up here. I had the Stellam. They all pack in these kind of like brown sugar, kind of candied, good, rich body flavors, and they start to blur together. Now, I'm not trying to say Stellam Bourbon is going to beat Russell's 13.
Probably not, yeah.
But a lot of people are able to find it, and it's, $50.
Yeah, I've not tried Stellam yet. I really want to try it because I've heard great things, which is on the list. So let's transition, and I'm sure we'll devolve again, and they'll be great. But Stellam, new line extension from Barrel Craft Spirits, which already has a massive line of products. Not that they have a massive line at any one time, but, they're dropping bourbon batches, rye batches, single barrels, these goofy blends of added malts, seagrass, which I forget what seagrass even was, dovetail, which is more like rum finished stuff. And then they're like, well, we should probably have something that's probably a little bit more accessible from a price point perspective. So then they released Stellam, which spelled backwards is mullets, which is pretty cool. I don't know if they thought about that when they named it, but Brian, you've had Stellam? You've already had
both of them.
All right. So, you know,
I think I did videos on both of them too.
MSRP is what, 50 to 60 on these?
Yeah. And they had them at our Costco for $44.
Get out of here. Yeah, I'm a buy at that just based on reputation alone. It's not in Wisconsin yet. So
I'm halfway done with my bourbon. I think I'm going to go back and get another bottle. I honestly think it's got a lot of good flavor. And I had tried them at a bar before getting them, and I was confident that the bourbon was better. The rye is a rye drinker's rye. And
that's what
while there are other things that I think are better, like if you like rye, you should grab the bottle if you want a complex rye that is a rye. It's not a Kentucky rye. It's not a sweet rye.
Jimmy,
it is a complex rye.
Where's it at, Jimmy? Tell me where it is. I think I'll go pick up a bottle of the bourbon. But give me an illusion. So the bourbon is similar to what distillery? If you were to say, it's kind of like this other product, and then the rye.
Shoot.
Just draw an adjacency for me.
Man,
just real quick, while you think about that, we have 100 people in the chat. Hey, glad you guys are here spending your evening with us. You rock. If you wouldn't mind just smashing the thumbs up. And the reason I ask is not because of my ego, but it's just really helpful exposing other people to the content, which we work hard at. So if you want to support the channel, the pod, it's as something as simple as that, hitting that thumbs up button really helps with that. So that would be rad. And then also, if you want to take a step further and you want to share our videos in your local bourbon groups on Facebook, as I know many of you are probably a part of, that is also awesome, huge. That's huge for getting our crap out there. So that's a big way you can support as well when we post a video. All right.
Drew and I have different opinions on that too. You know, Drew is A-okay with doing the support. I am a little bit more reserved. I just don't like promoting our stuff all the time because I know other people in our groups do it. But if you appreciate the content, man, I appreciate seeing it posted. Jumping back into the Stellam real quick about it, what it's similar to. Golly.
And Matt Porter's in the house. Yeah, scared money don't make money. That's my boy. Matt, I miss you, man. We're gonna have you back on soon, very soon. I've got Old Charter behind me.
Gosh, I miss this guy so much.
Yeah, I know.
I've missed you so much, Matt.
I gotta get this sent out to the next person on my team. But that was a fun project.
So. And I feel like I'm going to be saying this because it's fresh off the pick, but this has that like honey graham sweetness, like Middle West spirits. It has like a rye tickle that like, would appeal to the people who like high rye bourbons. It's got a little youthfulness though too. Some orchard fruit. It's tricky. I don't know what I would compare it to, honestly. It's just fun. It's a good this season bourbon. It's got flavors that I feel like is great, kind of warm but cool, like porch sipping bourbon.
Interesting. It was well articulated. I don't know that I followed it, but I also don't know that I was paying attention. But the mash bill on the Stellam?
No, it's a blend of stuff from Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And what I thought that they did, gosh, I'm going to get this wrong. What I thought that they did in order to get their stuff is they basically created a batch product, something for the most part. And then they finish it with stuff to get it to where they want to. I'm assuming most of this batch is all going to be the same proof. But I thought that's what they did to like escalate the process. They have it like, let's just say 95%. This is all that's blended together. And they only add another 5% of stuff to increase the proof, give it a little bit more age, or, take it in a slightly different direction. So, but again, it's hard for me. I mean, the weird thing, I feel like one bottle it reminds me similarly of is the Nashville Barrel Company small batch rye, which doesn't exactly make sense.
MGP,
but it has
right?
it has a good bit of I thought someone had said this was a lot of MGP stuff in there, but I don't want to commit to that.
MGP rye has a very pronounced, that 95.5. Like that's so it's like you kind of know when you're tasting an MGP rye, at least if it's got
right. But this is bourbon. This is bourbon though.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time tracking right now. But anyway,
I am talking about the Stellam Bourbon.
Okay, got it. Cool.
I'm just saying it tastes like honey graham crackers, orchard fruit.
Yeah, I like
a decent bit of spice. It doesn't really have a lot of oak. It just it's like a juicy summer sipping bourbon.
Yeah, I like that as long as it doesn't taste young. As long as it's not overly grainy. Real quick, somebody asked about. This is Stag Batch 14 that I'm drinking. I just took a little nip off of that. I have Stag Batch 12, which, as you know, may know, that's one of the Batch 15 and Batch 12. Just kind of general consensus that those are the bangers. That 12, I'll probably that'll be my next like super special occasion pop. Once I kill the Stag 19, the big boy stag behind me. All right, so yeah, Stellam's one of those hot brands to try, and the nice thing is we can recommend it because it's a pretty decent price. So we're not talking Blue Run here, but let's talk more about the hot whiskey summer releases, the things that people are probably well, just if you follow the forums, the ones that are a little bit more manic in their pursuit. A couple Old Forester distillery releases have been met with very high secondary value, sold out incredibly fast. 117 and the barrel strength rye, which again, being the Milwaukee guy, I was not able to procure. So Brian, I just yield the floor to you as well. Although I will say, so I'll talk for a minute. I'll give the background and then you can share your thoughts on the tasting. So 117 series was the high angel share, high evaporation barrels picked by Jackie Zeichen. That's it. That's what they were. Bottled at 375 milliliters. And I wanted this because I'm a big fan of, condensed flavor. And I find that the low yield barrels tend to rock. They just tend to be pretty oaky and really rich and creamy as a general rule, not 100%. So I heard on one of the Bourbon Pursuit pods, Jackie was talking about something with, what do they call those, short barrels? Yeah, she was talking about a project with short barrels, and then not long after that, the 117 series was released. So, at some point, Brian, you need to kick me a sample of that because I want to taste it. But anyway, what were your thoughts on 117?
Personally, a big fan of 117. A lot of guys that I know, not a big fan. I honestly don't.
And what do they not like about it?
I don't know. It's either the flavor, or they wish they had more, or they just like the barrel strengths better. It's a number of things. Most people are just like, it's fine, and then others who are just like, I just don't really like it. And that's one thing that I find difficult is to figure out what type of like oak or wood or tannicness that people like. The Russells themselves will tell you, right? Like 8 to 10 years. Yeah. They're like 8 to 10 years. That's the sweet spot. And as much as I disagree with the 6-year MGP stuff, others will tell you 6 to 8 is where it's at, because you just have the brown sugar and corn sweetness. You're past the youthfulness and you're starting to add a little bit of oak. But me personally, I like the older stuff. And so I feel like it has exaggerated leather and char that reminds me of King of Kentucky. It's one of the only pours that's had that. I've tried 1920. 1920 sometimes to me is just exaggerated, leathery, and a little intense.
You need to go back to it, I think.
I should. I really should.
Yeah. That would be a good pod episode for us to taste a whole lineup of OFO And because I think Statesman is underrated.
I love Statesman too.
Oh, good.
I'm
All
a
right,
big
awesome.
big Statesman fan.
Anyway, that would be a good episode.
But the barrel strengths, and like you said when you had it the other day on your Old Forester walkthrough video, I think there's been maybe 2 Old Forester barrel strengths out of like 25 that I've tried that I've enjoyed. The others have just been too hot.
Yeah,
and I'm not one who can't take high proof, man.
Too. It's not great. Anyway, I wouldn't recommend to somebody to buy an Old Forester barrel strength pick. I had to. I traded one because I didn't like the first one. I was able to taste the second one, and I was like, "That's fine." But given the price, I'm not sure. I may have traded that one for a Four Roses pick too. When the initial buzz was out on these Old Forester picks. So if you have a capped Old Forester pick, I would try one if you can before you open it. Maybe trade it because definitely not my jam.
There's one I tried that was super, super good. Super chewy, didn't taste youthful, any of that. It was nice.
Porkins, I mentioned in my video, if you guys haven't watched already, on Monday I released a video kind of reviewing the Old Forester Tour, fun video. And I mentioned tasting Whiskey Row and tasting 1870 again, which it had been a while since I had it. I was like, well, dang, this is actually pretty freaking good. So, I would not overlook, if you're looking for something low proof, OFO 1870, pretty nice. It's nice. All right, let's keep her moving and go on to the second Old Forester release we're talking about tonight, and that is the Barrel Strength Rye, which this one did get outside of the distillery. I mean, a lot of it went through the distillery, but it was distributed slightly. None in Wisconsin. Big surprise, per usual. Again, I get Michter's, and that's about it. I can't complain. Look at my shelf. I'm a douchebag. Anyway, talk to us about the rye. I mean, the barrel strength rye, like this. So they released the rye. I'll give you the background. Released the Old Forester rye, high malt. Remember, this is like a 60-some% rye, 30-some% malt, like tons of malt up in this rye. And they released that sucker at $20 a few years back. And Fred Minnick is like, it's the best. I bought cases. I can't get enough of it. And I tried it, and I was like, this is fine. It's fine. Banana City with some cinnamon. But big bananas, not what you think of when you want a rye for me. Like if I crave a rye, I don't want Old Forester rye. That said, I'm always willing to try a barrel strength rye, especially if it's got more barrel time than the standard Old Forester rye. Which, Brian, you tried a couple of the OFO ryes, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What are your general thoughts having tasted a couple different barrels?
Man, they're pretty different. So from the samples that I tried, I prefer the Jack Daniels rye, which should be kind of similar. But because they're all single barrels, they're all going to be similar wheelhouse. And I had some that were a little bit more spice, a little bit more like basic rye profile. They were just kind of fine. They're just fine. It's like a little overpriced in that regard. But then one of them that I tried was really chewy, had some really good sweetness. I just think it got ebbed out by one of the Jack Daniel barrels that I have that's just like cake that I just love. So I enjoy it more than the regular rye. And so far, I've enjoyed them more than bourbon picks. But none of them have really given me like something out of the box. I don't know what I expected. I think I expected it to give me something that I was looking for or that I didn't know I was looking for. And they just taste like barrel strength ryes. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. We had a question from Tim. I came in a little late. Have we talked about Maker's FAE 01? No. And here's the reason, Tim, is because in spite of my best efforts, FAE 01, generally people in forums, Facebook groups, secondary value, it's not that, like, there's not a massive amount of buzz. To me, it's awesome. Like, it's the best thing that Makers has released that I've tried. I love it. I might take a little nip of that next. Really, really, really good barrel strength wheated whiskey. That said, for whatever reason, Makers limited releases, maybe because they don't come with age statements, maybe because they're stave finished. They just don't, there's not a big clamor for it. I guarantee you, if Makers released an age stated whiskey, doesn't matter what aged, but if it was age stated, people would lose their minds. And there would be a massive secondary value on. So, like, let's imagine FAE01 is 12 years old. If Makers released, they say, like, hey, by the way, FAE01 is 12 years old. Now we'd all go crazy for it. It's already a fantastic whiskey, but if you throw that age statement on it, people would go bananas. So, like, what in terms of the whiskeys that I've had this year, throw Makers FAE01 out there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure on my 9 whiskeys you should be hunting video, Makers FAE01 was on that video. Killer. You should get it if you can. I actually saw another. I've got one open and one backup, and I saw one in Milwaukee for $55, which is it's crazy. It's an insane value, and I can point you in the direction to get it if you would like me to. Slide into my DMs on Instagram at Drew P. Whiskey. All right. Great question there. Andrew Beck, a.k.a. Porkin, says if Makers released a 10 to 12-year barrel proof, they would charge whatever they wanted, and I'd probably pay it. I would too. That said, I like the fact that I've already got, their 46 cask, their 2020 release and 2021 because they're great. So I just try and tell myself the age statement may not matter. Although I imagine that they're releasing these younger because Makers tends to do that. They don't let their stuff age very long. So they're probably in the 8-year range. Gosh, if they just drop some 14-year wheated barrels on us at cask strength. I mean, I know, like, they're going to rival WL Weller. Like, Makers can take over the wheated game, rival Weller if they would drop.
Do you think so, though? That. It's hard to say without trying their old stuff to know, like,
does it retain anybody? Sweetness? Here's a random question.
Well, yeah.
Anybody tried old Makers?
Well, I mean, no.
Like, have the people has their master distiller, who's Denny Potter now, has Denny Potter tried old Makers? Do they even keep barrels? I don't think they do.
Well, I'm curious what they were dumping in, like, Makers in the 80s, because, like, 80s Makers, I think hold on. Let me show you.
Dusty Makers?
Yeah, dude.
No.
It's a mini. But I've tried it. I've tried it at older stuff. This is I'm trying to remember what year it was. It's not on here, man. 80s, 70s Makers. That's my jam, man. It's my jam. But the reason I say that is because the old Fitzgerald 15 year, I came into old Fitzgerald 15 saying, dude, Pappy 15 killer. It was nothing like it.
Seems like there was so some folks have tried older Makers, 15 or 18. Won't release it. So why not? Like, get over yourself. Like, I appreciate the principle. Like, hey, we release what we release and we try and make it great. Like, I respect that. That said, the bourbon geek in me wants the most unique crap, and this is what I love about doing barrel picks. And we've done 2, so I wouldn't consider myself spoiled yet. But it's awesome to taste, what's kind of hidden in the corners. And I wish more crap like that was available to, the 102 of us who are here hanging out on a Thursday night talking about whiskey. That said, it is what it is. Standard Makers is pretty good. Makers 46 is really nice. Makers Cask is great. For an everyday cask strength bourbon at $45, and then the limited releases at 55 to 60 are awesome. So we're at the time of the night. You guys can probably predict what I'm going to say right now. What were you going to say? No, you were going to guess.
You've had enough hydration, and you have to go to the hydration station.
Well, yeah, I need more water because I haven't drunk enough because I went to the gym. Trying to get back on the
flex on us.
but I'm going to go to the bathroom while I get the water. So Brian, I'm going to tee you up here first though, so we can keep the show rolling.
Yep.
And you've been on a hunt this year. Not makers. We're talking about makers. Four Roses barrel picks. Seemed like they were flying kind of under the radar, and then somehow in 2021, they went full Bitcoin on us. # to the moon. And they've just become the hot ticket item. So it's not a new release, but the hype is very 2021. So I'd like you to break down why you think that is, and your general effect, because people know this, that you and I both have a deep affection for Four Roses barrel picks. You can talk about that. I'll be right back.
Sure. Well, I mean, I personally feel like, other makers, other distilleries, they've been tapped already, or they're being tapped, right? And I feel like the only thing to do with makers who are actually producing good stuff is inevitably, as young juice gets marked up too high, as old juice has less information about it and is too high, you have people who are dead set on one thing, and it's their tried and true. It's their daily, right? It's good value, good product, and it starts to keep being uncovered and uncovered and uncovered. I mean, Four Roses has been doing a good thing for a long time. Some people are not fans of Four Roses. I have learned that. There are some people who just cannot jive with the Four Roses profile. However, it got to a point where, with so much MGP juice on the market, we're seeing 10, 11, 12, 13-year barrel strength whiskey at a multitude of proofs, at a multitude of recipes on the market for, I mean, what was it at that time? $65. And then it's gone up to 70, 75. Now it's trickling into the 80 or the 90. But still, if you're following the $10 a year kind of thing that some of the other folks have done, it's still there. And I think some people have learned that that there's a lot of flavor there. To me, the best thing about Four Roses is the richness. I like having a pour that has a lot of viscosity, and it doesn't sacrifice that for age. And so there's that. Now, I'm mainly talking about single barrels. Let's see what William Wiley's saying real quick before I keep talking. Bad thing with the Four Roses single barrel strength picks in Georgia, the stores are making you buy 5 other Four Roses balls to get one of the picks. Yeah, man, that sucks. But if there was a distillery where I had to buy a slew of their stuff, personally, I wouldn't mind that with Four Roses. Yellow Label, solid mixer. The small batch original, pretty solid drinker. The small batch select has been a very big fan. Man, Andrew Beck, you bring up a great point too. Four Roses surprisingly does not do very well in the blinds. And I noticed that because, to me, the 19 Four Roses is one of my, on its own, all-time pours. It has dusty-like characteristics to me. It has a lot of mapley characteristics. It's complex. But man, you put that in lineup against Parker's Heritage Heavy Char, George T. Stagg, anything else like that, and all of a sudden you're like, man, that pour is a little flat. That pour is a little complex. It's amazing to me how drinking a Four Roses bottle, a single barrel, on its own can have so much, and then compared to other stuff is not. That's the thing that's so weird to me about blinds. I love doing blinds, but I agree. There's sometimes these bottles seem great, and they blind so terrible. They blind so terrible. Eric's talking about a 10-year Oesf. Was that an MW? Is that the one? That's the same one you were talking about. Was that a MW 79 barrel?
That is the barrel I was talking about yesterday that I did not get because. So here's the thing. Well, Eric tells us what the specs were on that bottle. So at a local liquor store, which is actually kind of a drive to get to, not super easy. They posted, hey, FYI, we're launching. You have to buy a barrel pick, one of our other barrel picks. They have tons. They do a great job. And their prices are good. Have to buy a barrel pick to get this. It was still sold out in like 2 hours. And I was in friggin' Oshkosh and couldn't make it down to Amon's. That's the store. So yeah, that's 2 now. 2 Four Roses picks that have dropped in Wisconsin in 2021. Didn't get either one. So,
and I will say,
fine.
I mean,
that's
obviously,
fine.
so Drew is getting into the Four Roses game. Really enjoys Four Roses. We tasted through some stuff, and so he's wanting to pick up some stuff. I'm gonna selfishly plug. If you want to send us Four Roses samples, or if you have some barrel and you're like, this is great, you want to try it.
Hero, yeah.
If you had access to Four Roses bottles and you just wanted to be like a great steward and you didn't want to support the Patreon channel, dudes, hit us up. And I tell you that because I am a Four Roses drinker and I chase specific runs. I love the stuff. I love the stuff. I'd love to try other picks I don't have access to. I know Drew would be interested too. Anyway, selfish plug. I want to go back to another question up here because
real quick though, Eric dropped the specs for you.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Thank you. There's that RS79 run's been around a little bit. There's a RS RS79 and MW79. Now, one thing I found interesting, I had, this is like 2 months ago, I realized that the second letter of the warehouses, the first letter is the warehouse, right? R, M, wherever. The second letter is the side of the warehouse. It's either north, south, east, or west. Okay. So it's always, the second letter is always going to be an N or an S or an E or W. You move into 5 or whatever the number is, that is the tier. Now, Four Roses has single level warehousing. And what that happens is
just real quick, this is the price of admission. So Brian, I want you to start over and do it quickly. But this is really like helpful when you're trying to figure out what the heck is going on on these bottles. And if you find something you really like there may be something similar out there for you to chase.
So I will start in the very beginning and I will say you cannot discredit any Four Roses pick based on recipe, age, tier, any of that stuff. You can't because they're single level warehousing, and that is going to aid in the consistency of their product entirely. But I will say,
10 tiers? Is that correct?
No, they have 6.
6 tiers.
It's just it's just a row of 6 barrels, right? Yeah. But it's still true, just like any other rick house. What's on 1 is usually earthier with a little bit lower proof. Whatever's on 6, it's usually maybe a little bit more vibrant, pops a little bit more, and has a little bit more proof to it. So that rule still kind of follows true. But so look at what everyone look in the chat real quick about what Eric Sawyer posted. RS, it's the third thing he posted. RS means it was warehouse R, and it was on the south side of that building. Okay, so the south side of warehouse R. It's on row 79, and it's on the 5th tier, barrel M. So they go through. I don't actually remember how many 22, maybe 24, maybe 22 to 24 barrels per row. So it's barrel M. So that kind of shows you where it is there. And I didn't catch he said 10 year, 2 month. Right now, there's a lot of stuff that's in the 10 to 13 year range. The thing that's so tricky, I had somebody message me on one of my videos because he said there's not enough content out there on YouTube. He wanted me to do a video tasting through Four Roses. I would love to. I can do tasting based on proof. I can do tastings based on age. I could taste through recipes of all, like one run, all different single barrels. The thing that I find so crazy about Four Roses is because they have a total of 10 different recipes in the single barrel program. They mix from those into their staple products. Now, the changes of those two things are, is it high rye or low rye? Which both of them are relatively high rye compared to some.
Low-ish rye.
But then they have 5 different yeast strains, and those yeast strains are going to give a little bit more variance of flavor. Now, the reason I say that it's so wild, because I can't exactly say that a 9-year OESV will taste like a 13-year OESV, and I can't say that a OESV from tier 1 will taste like an OESV from tier 6. And so there's a lot of combinations, and I think that's what makes it fun. But to go back to Drew's original question, is that Four Roses is still, if you can find it, and I know that it's hard for some people to acquire it in their regions, but when you do, the price is still very good for the age range generally of the product that you get, for the fact that it's cask strength, non-chill filtered, whatever it is, and regardless of the tier, even if it's a 1, 2, or 3, you're usually going to get a really good product. But I do hope that you take notes on what it is that you try, so you can try and figure out if there are things that you do like and don't like, maybe how to try and find something like that in the future. So I was drinking tonight when I started. I said I was drinking this Oesf. It's from an HW run. This is a very different pour than the Oesf that Eric is talking about. So the one that I'm talking about, this HW55 run, was almost more like a beam product. It's smoky. It's like kind of gasoline-like. Like it's really it's got a lot of char. It's got a lot of like toasted kind of notes. It's interesting, kind of off-profile run, I feel like. Whereas the run that he's talking about has a little bit more cinnamon and some oak to it. I'm missing some stuff. I'm sorry, guys. Let me go back up here.
Yeah, I almost have to cut you off real quick. I'll you read up, and I'm gonna shout out Jason for the super chats. So Jason Holbrook, dude, thank you. That's a way you guys can support the pod, the channel, the show. If you want, you can throw in a little bit of cash through the YouTubes. There's a little cash button if you want to do that. No pressure. Thanks a lot, Jason, for that. And then we had an interesting question from Carlos here. How difficult would it be to set up a pick at Four Roses? Well, we'd have to get a distributor that sold beyond craft whiskey, our stuff. Yep. We'd have to actually chat with Blake. I don't know if he may have limitations to what he can sell for us. Gosh, that would be awesome, though. That would be so sick to do a Four Roses pick. I'd be just jacked out of my mind. So who knows? Maybe one day. There is a store locally in Milwaukee that may do a pick that I can get on, and maybe we could make some bottles available to Patreon supporters. I told them to look into Four Roses, but I'm sure the lead time is a couple years. So at this point, so you really got to get on the list.
Yeah, I think their allocation numbers are going down year over year. Yeah. So it's tricky.
Less barrels, more demand. Yeah, it is tough.
Yeah, which we hope that's just a period while they're doing all the growth and increase of production at the distillery. I'm hopefully that would pick up eventually, but it's probably a while before we see that.
Yep. All right.
Yeah. So I think that's the biggest. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's go ahead and move on. We got two more things to talk about. One of them you alluded to at the start because you got them sitting on the shelf behind you, and that is the relaunch of OKI. So the OKI brand was started by the folks that own New Riff. So that's how New Riff got started, is they were sourcing well-aged MGP, and they were bottling it under this OKI brand. It was like, so what is it? Bottled in Kentucky. So always loved in Ohio, bottled in Kentucky, distilled in Indiana. I'm pretty sure that's how they ran it. Kind of convoluted way to name a product. But man, OKI got hot when Smooth Ambler Old Scout barrel picks were hot. I never had an OKI pick. I've had a few Smooth Ambler picks, and they rock. I'm holding back a 10-year Smooth Ambler bottle and a 12-year barrel pick. Great stuff, no doubt. New Riff decided they were done with OKI when they started, bottling their own juice. I think they did a couple kind of special OKI releases, and then they were done. And then the most recent MGP they actually bottled under the New Riff label, which was interesting. So they sold the OKI brand to couple dudes. I actually don't know their story, but they sold it
Right.
off to folks who wanted to sort of, ride the strength, the hype of OKI. So it's a completely different operation, different pallets running it, still sourcing MGP, but at half, give or take, the age of the previous OKI bottlings. But we also look at Brian's shelf and we see one of those suckers is packing some serious oak. I made fun of
this
people.
This is not a trick. I'll switch the bottles again so you can see. One is clearly darker than the other one. Both 6 years.
Yeah, so I made fun of people in one of my videos, like looking at color when doing a review, because it's not a guarantee of flavor. That said, when there's that big of a variation of color, you imagine one of those is going to taste a lot more oaky than the other one. So it's not, I made fun of them, but maybe I was foolish. Wouldn't be the first time. So
going back to Brad Harris real quick, he just quick answer. What was the last Craig 13 year? This was from Justin's House of Bourbon from here in Kentucky. It was a pick that they did for the Bourbon Festival 2021. So that's what that pick was.
Nice. So Brian, have you tried these? I mean, you've got the two unopened, but have you had some tasty
I've had both
taste
of them.
of the new OKI?
Yeah, I've had both of them. So it's been a while since I've had some smooth Ambler, like the new smooth Ambler. But I thought the last time I tried one, it was not very good.
Wait, so hold on. You mean the new smooth Ambler, like the relaunch?
Old Scout.
So the 5-year stuff
Yes.
They're sourcing from. Okay, yes.
And I had tried
good.
and I had tried an OKI pick last year that was 5-year, and I didn't think it was super good either. So this one that's darker is done from a group called Kobe here in Louisville. It's a black bourbon enthusiasts group in conjunction with Old Town Liquors, which is in the Highlands. This one over here was the new one that released from Cox's and Evergreen here in Louisville. And this one right here, barrel yield 157, barrel yield 196. So about 40 bottles different. Honey barrel here. This may not make a difference, but Jamar got this one. I'm pretty sure not through the lottery. He was just offered a pick of this. This one right here, I'm pretty sure. Well, actually, I don't know how the store got it. I disregard what I was just about to say. This one I tried the other day, and I thought it was fine. But I tried it the day after, and it was a lot better. Once it opened up, it had like the purple fruit flavor. So it had some date, it had some grape, a little floral tone to it, which is something I've noticed in some of these MGP barrels. And then a lot of brown sugar. And as it opened, it had a lot more oak going on to it too. This one over here I tried today. I tried it at Evergreen, which is just around the corner from where I work at the roastery. But it was on the shelf, and he had popped. He's like, "What are you going to drink today?" And I said, "Pop that bottle." So he did. And so I feel like there's a little bit of a disadvantage because that I didn't get the best impression of it. I might try it again tomorrow there, but it had the same like malty, kind of salty, off taste that like that's the problem. That's the reason why I don't like Nulu all that much, and like just young MGP in general has that taste. It had that, but beyond it, it did have some red fruit. It did have some caramelized sugars, and it made me think, okay, if this bottle is also open a day or a week or so, maybe it will rough off some of those edges like this one, and taste better. So I look forward to trying it once it's had some time to breathe and see how it compares. But this one here though, I was pretty surprised. I was if
that sucker was.
Well, not even about the color. Like before, I just picked this one up today. I picked this one up yesterday. If this was my only first taste of OKI, I didn't have any other barrels, I'd be like, dude, you gotta try that new OKI. It's pretty tasty. But
it's barrel to barrel thing.
What's hard for me in Nation, you got to understand, having these here and having this Nashville Barrel Company stuff here, this is kind of hard for me because I have been one of those guys who says that the young whiskeys one of the present problems. And it's a problem because I understand it's necessary. People put out whiskey to fund their stuff while they have juice aging, right? I understand the reason they do it. And I don't have a problem with the profile necessarily of it. What my problem is we have every year we have a growing number of bourbon enthusiasts saying, I like bourbon now. What is bourbon? And they can't find allocated stuff. Who can? And so they grab what's on the shelf, which is sourced, young, MGP. And what I see as the problem is that we're telling people this is what whiskey tastes like. That's
Brian's concerned we're lowering the bar.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's fair. It's a fair. Hold on just a second, because I haven't spoken in a little while. So you think about it, and then you jump in. Yeah. But John White says, or Andrew Porkins says, MGP needs to get to 6 years. John White says he's had 5 years. That was good. Rye. Yeah, there's some good 4-year MGP rye out there. I'm not a fan of young whiskey either. I'm a critic of it generally. You guys many of you have watched a lot of my tastings of craft whiskeys. We're over 80 so far this year. I need a couple more blinds to help me get to 100, FYI. Another selfish plug. Slide into my DMs if you want to send me some craft whiskeys. But one of my favorites this year on my looks like top 7 or 8, not counting a couple of full bottles I have, but is a Nulu, actually. You just mentioned Nulu. So this is MGP. It's not really craft distilled, but craft curated, we'll call it. 5 years, 3 months. And I tasted whoever sent me this, I forget who, but gave me a friggin' 4-ounce sample. Like, what a friggin' boss. Super generous person, whoever that was. And it was really good. When I went back to it, I'm like, this is great. It's really solid. So I'm going to taste it again here. Coming off of 4 Roses 2020 LE. So I'll have to do a palate cleanse. I have some of this Nelson Greenbrier, which is only good for palate cleansing, in my opinion, before I get into this Nulu. Bottom line is there are some barrels coming out at 5 or 6 years that can be quite good. That said, most whiskey in that 4 to 6 year old range could benefit from just a little bit more barrel time. And we see this I think Boone County is a good example too. I tried their 6-year wheated. Solid. I liked it. I mentioned that. Hey, it's pretty good. It wasn't in my tops, but when I went in and I saw they had an 8-year barrel strength single barrel, I was like, let's go. I mean, this has got to be pretty solid. And it really was. I mean, and the color on this guy too, really, I mean, granted, my lighting in here is not like Brian's, but I mean, you guys can see through that. It's got some nice oaky presence on that, and really phenomenal whiskey. So, Brian, I'll send you a sample when I open it.
Yeah, and my mind's been changing. I've tried to keep an open mind because even some of the picks that we've been lining up are some of these. In talking with Blake, right, and his passion for craft distillers who are doing things that are different. And I think what really first changed my mind was that Middle West Spirits that Tom had sent us. That I think you and I both place pretty high in your craft stuff. And to me, I'm like, dude, it's in my top. And I'm like, man, how does new make from to me, I have no idea who these people are.
Random
distillery favor so well in terms of just really good flavor. And so I've tried to be a little bit more optimistic just about age of product, but I do have a profile that my palate generally hits, and it usually doesn't lie with the young stuff. But
so Brian and I are both coffee people. One of the things we say at Stone Creek Coffee, that's my coffee company, is the cup always wins. Like, it doesn't really matter where a coffee's from, what variety is, how it's processed. All that does matter. It contributes to the flavor. But ultimately, I don't know necessarily that a naturally processed coffee from La Palma y Tucán in Colombia is going to be fantastic until I taste the dang thing. Like, ultimately, some random wash coffee from some co-op out in, let's say Jinotega in Nicaragua could potentially be better than that naturally processed coffee from Tucán in Colombia. Odds are not good, but the cup, like the way it tastes, will tell us. The cup always wins. Bourbon, same story. There are things that we use to kind of get us dialed in: age, proof, distillery, mash bill, etc. But ultimately, taste the dang thing, and then you'll know. That said, you can't buy everything, so it's really helpful to just sample trade or try at a bar or whatever. Real quick, just big shout out to Jason Holbrook, who's adding to our kids' college funds tonight. Jason, thanks, man. You've been generous. Appreciate that.
Is he asking us to do a shot of Buffalo Trace? Because he has chipped in enough. And I'm going to do one. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I'm going to do
I have an open bottle of Buffalo Trace. I don't particularly want to do a shot because I've been doing
Here's the deal. Here's the deal.
That's a tiny
I've got
bottle.
this much. Yeah, but I've got this much left in it. And for you, I'm going to finish it off.
All right.
Nice. Cheers, dude. Thanks so much for chipping in.
63 likes, squad. Thanks for, highly engaged crowd tonight. Maybe it's that hot whiskey summer. Maybe people thought I was going to take my shirt off. I need to spend a lot more time at the gym before I do that on a live, but I probably drink a lot more bourbon as well. But yeah, thanks everybody for engaging. We're not done yet. It's been fun though. I gotta say that. All right, so Jason's still making it rain. Jason, are you sure you haven't been hacked, buddy? $10 and then another $5. So he just seems like a good guy, or maybe his wife got a hold of his credit card and she's like, this is a subtle jab that he spent too much on whiskey. But regardless,
dude, highlight this point by Andrew Beck too, just real quick, man. That you are not wrong. That lower barrel entry stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm all about it, dude.
I agree.
I'm all about it.
Yeah, there does seem to be something with the folks that are putting their distillate in the barrel at 110, 114 proof. That kind of comes out better than the stuff that goes in at 125, which is the norm for like a rye bourbon recipe. So Buffalo Trace, Heaven Hill, that stuff goes in at 125. Four Roses, I think, is 114. So it's somewhere in the teens. Wild Turkey for the longest time was 107, and then they raised it a couple of times. I think they're in the 1-teens now. Yeah. Kyle Ramage also with the super chat. Thanks, dog. Oh, I meant to mention this earlier. Kyle sent us a picture of him and Matt. Is it Matt? Your friend Matt? Good guy who came on the Starlight Picks with us. I think it's Matt. It's Matt, right, Brian? Kyle's friend Matt, who we met. I'm sorry, Matt, if it's not Matt, I'm terrible with names, and I wish I was better. I need to be better. Anyway, they're watching just on Kyle's porch on a TV out there. So if you guys want to tag us on Instagram how you're watching the live stream, we'll share that. Totally. So just tag Entry Proof, Abandoned Bourbon, Droopy Whiskey. We'll spread it out to the Instagram verse. And I'm curious to see, how do you guys watch this? Are you on your computer? Are you on your phone? Hopefully you're not on the toilet. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. But anyway, it's kind of fun when people tag us when they're watching. So that would be rad if you did that. We'll share it. Okay. A couple more whiskeys to get to. All right. Here's one that I want to get. That's not, the hype on this is pretty good. It's not Pandemonium because I think the distribution is limited. But I'd be curious to see if anybody in the chat got this one, because neither Brian or I have had it. And that is the Bowman Cask Strength. Now, look this sucker up here. The Bowman has never released a cask strength, but the Bowman single barrel is what I try and tell people to get if they can't get Blanton's, because it's Buffalo Trace Mash Bill number 2 that's just aged elsewhere. Virginia, somewhere in Virginia. Anyway, it's basically Blanton's, so you should just buy that, and then you'll be happy.
Blanton's isn't cask strength, though.
No.
Are you talking about Bowman in general?
Yeah, I'm just talking about Bowman in general. Like the Bowman single barrel, I'm like, you should get that because it's $50 and it's basically Blanton's. You should get it. So you're welcome if you didn't know that. Bowman single barrel, basically Blanton's, just aged, not in Kentucky. You can send me a check later. The Bowman cask strength is basically, now I don't know what the age is, but it's probably comparable to Blanton's straight from the barrel. So I really want to try and get one of these Bowman cask strengths and taste it up against that Blanton straight from the barrel.
What's the cost on those things?
I just Googled it. Wait for it. On Cask Cartel, $3,600. No,
Pass.
that's a 18-year-old. So that's not actually right. Hold on. So there's a 10-year cask strength online. Okay, so it's a 10-year-old cask strength. Wait for it.
Oh,
And there's a lottery, but oh gosh, it's hazmat, dude. It's 141.1 proof.
well, let's go. That's hard.
Yeah. Oh my word! But I don't know what the actual MSRP.
Jason is saying $49.99 in Virginia, and Eric is saying $99 at the distillery. So it's somewhere between $50 to $100 to $3,600.
The 50 is the single barrel MSRP. There's no way that that's the cask strength. So 99 feels correct.
It's cheaper than straight from the barrel.
Right. Well, I think that 100 MSRP is about what it is overseas. You can't get it for that over here, or what it was.
And for the record, you guys aren't going to hear me talk about this much because I never talk about Buffalo Trace products.
Which is a bummer because they're good.
But Bland straight from the barrel is pretty legit. I am one of the people that think that Blanton straight from the barrel should be an antique collection product. I think it has the flavor. You just don't have as hard of a chase or difficulty finding.
Well, I mean, you used to be able to get it fairly easily overseas. Now it's harder because there are enough of us Americans, walking around Paris looking for straight from the barrel. Right. And then they did a limited release stateside this year with Blanton's Gold as well. I had to trade. So mine's a 700, so it's an international. Guy picked it up, I think, in the Caribbean or something, like going on a cruise and found it down there and kind of bought him out. And he wanted Michter's 10. I was like, that's fine. You can have it. And that's what we did. So stoked to try that. But this Bowman release, I think, is one of the most intriguing. And I kind of expected it to fly under the radar, but I know that the release is very limited. But it's really high on the Drew P list of interesting products because of the Buffalo Trace connection. But that's all I have to say about it because we haven't tried it. But hazmat's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
All right, what's on y'all's hot whiskey summer list? Throw them out there in the chat right now. What did we?
Oh, snap, Eric! I didn't realize that.
What?
Eric said Breaking Bourbon called it early front runner for whiskey of the year.
That's actually how I first heard about it. Was there?
Interesting.
Yeah. So
I need to try that bottle.
Yeah, right. I know. That's what I'm saying. But anybody else have anything?
Not even on my. I mean, I had heard about it, but not even on my radar until right now.
You're welcome.
Dang.
So, what else have you guys tried, seen that has sparked your interest this year? And at this point, at 9:33, we've accomplished our agenda. So,
but just showing everybody, I finally got my actual injury proof glass from Drew. From when we met up for our Middle West Spirits pick. Drew, how can the beautiful people in the chat acquire such glasses as these?
There are two ways. One is you can be an $8 a month tier or higher member on Patreon, and you'll get the glasses. You get a glass after 3 months. Another way you can get them is there is a link down below where you can buy them through an Etsy store because I don't have a better store set up yet, but that's where you can get a shirt. Wait for it. So our first shirt, there's going to be another shirt very, very soon. The Keep It Neat shirt. You can get that link down below. You can also get the entry proof Keep It
I need
Neat
that shirt, man.
Kenzie glasses. Yeah, I owe you one of those as well. But that's another way you can support the channel. We try and offer several paths, for those of you who want to support. And again, I would highly recommend if you just want to share our content, that's a huge way you can support as well. So that'd be great. Andrew Beck says he's been digging stuff from Finger Lakes, which actually is in the Pursuit United blend, which guys, we had, holy crap. Ryan Cecil, holy balls. Ryan Cecil on the pod, and that dude is salt of the earth. I would love to just have a drink with that guy. Really solid dude. Great episode. And what those guys are releasing under that Pursuit United brand, really, really solid. So if you have a chance to pick it up. You won't regret it. That has Finger Lakes in it. I think it has Bardstown juice and then one other, maybe MGP or Dickel. Maybe Dickel. But he didn't say Dickel. Some Tennessee whiskey.
It's not Dickel. He said it's Tennessee. That's not wherever it is that Dickel is.
Did he say that? Where was I? Okay. What other? So I guess it could be Nelson Greenbrier. Who else is distilling in Tennessee besides Nelson and Dickel?
It's somebody else, but it's not whatever county or city or wherever that Dickel. It's not Dickel. Don't worry about that. It's not Dickel.
Okay, what did I just... Oh, this is the Nulu. I poured a little of that Nulu that I have. Really nice. I mean, no, man, it smells great. Very fruity. Apples and berries. Now, it does remind me of a craft whiskey nose. Oh, we lost him. He just hocked a loogie straight out of the feed. That was hilarious. I have no idea what happened. What happened, dude?
I left in a fit of anger.
Yeah, right. Anyway, who else? Who else has Remus 5? Yeah, I mean, Remus 5 seems to be getting more hype than any Remus release previous, so I'm hopeful that I'll still be able to score one of those bad boys. Oh my gosh. Jimmy says those Bowman hazmats are going for over $1,000 on secondary. I was hoping people didn't really know about it. I hadn't seen any on the Wisconsin secondary group, but that is redonk. Eric says box arriving tomorrow, hand delivered. What are you getting in that box, dog? Eric, dude.
I think you might be getting a box hand delivered, dude.
From what? I didn't know.
Did you not check the message? Did you not check the message? He's trying to train us for World Top Whiskey Taster.
Oh, that would be great.
He sent us both blind flights, and they have questions for each, and then an envelope of answers for them.
Get out! Really? I didn't realize this.
Yep. So we can train for World's Top Whiskey Taster,
which we're both logged in on. Which
commentator comment face. You are right. Tennessee Distilling Group. I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Oh, I need to read about that. I know, honestly, radical transparency. I know nothing about that. I need to look into that. Real quick, Brian. I assume you submitted your video application. I submitted mine. Have you heard anything else since then?
No. I mean, I don't think it's going to be until the middle of August. I think that's when they said the submissions are ending. They'll go through everything and they'll let people know.
Okay. So this Nulu fruit bomb, all kinds of fruity, spicy notes. It does have a malty graininess, but it's still really, really good. Like, there are so many positive notes. There is a negative note in there, but I mean, if I'm assessing it against craft whiskeys, it's pretty good. If I assess it against other MGP I've had, they're, again, really good positives, a lot of complexity, but there is that standout, like, malty, grainy.
Yeah, here's the deal, man. A lot of, Blake specifically, obviously, which makes sense. He's done some picks. I don't know anything about the Penelope stuff.
Oh, we're talking about Penelope. Real quick, well, let's come back to Penelope. Squad, if you've hung with us, we're going to devolve now. That's the way it goes. We covered our agenda. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for those of you who super chatted. Very much appreciated. It's fun to just get on here and talk about whiskey, share it with you guys, and, learn from you in the case of the Bowman secondary value. Yeah, did not know about that. So that's kind of good to know. And overall, just have a good time. So hopefully you enjoyed that. And now it's kind of over, but we're just going to keep talking. So hang out if you want to. And, hopefully we'll be on here again next Thursday. We do this as we can. We try and get our standard videos out as a matter of practice. My next one will be the Evan Williams Bourbon Experience review, which you guys are going to want to catch that one for sure. Brian, what do you got coming up on the video agenda?
I thought about I'd like to do some of the Four Roses now. And then I thought about doing, because another store in town, as me and Eric McFarland have been talking, there's another store that has the OKI. I don't want to do a video that just talks about OKI. If I'm gonna put an OKI up, I want to put it up against a Remus or something else that is cheaper.
Yeah. I mean, you could do 2 videos, 3 OKI, like compare which one is best, and then you could do one where you take the best OKI against a really solid Remus pick, and then another, maybe an Old Scout, one of the new Old Scout picks.
Yeah, some of those things it just takes some time to line up getting samples of, because I don't have those bottles.
Yeah.
I did think about doing it. We're far away though. Like I have this Calumet 14, but I'm like, there's so many people who've already talked about the 14 Calumet. There's not really a reason to put that up.
Do that. I wouldn't watch it.
So honestly, I don't have anything specifically lined up yet. All I do know is that I tried out a new scene last time, but I miss it here. I like it here.
Yeah, that's a better. I would agree. Yeah, so the scene you tried felt more like you were in an office space, where here it feels very homey in a very good way. So I like your current,
which is fine. I mean, it was mainly me trying to figure out if there's a way, an area where I could keep my film stuff always set up. That can't be the case anyway, so I might as well just continue to set up here. So you will see me back here for my next video, regardless of where it is. Hey, Jug's talking about a store offering. He's going back to he's going full circle.
Yeah, all the way back to Russell's 13.
With the prices of Russell's 13, $250.
Yeah, I would pass at $252. I mean, if I didn't pick it up at $250 and then like 2 years from now the secondary value is $500, I would kick myself a little bit. But I try not to look back. You know, I have missed whiskeys I should have picked up. But again, there's always more good bourbon, so just try not to be like, oh, I missed out. We always miss out. That's part of what drives the craziness in bourbon is the FOMO. So like if we can just dial that back a little bit, I think the industry as a whole will be better. All right. We were talking about something, and then I stopped you so I could basically wrap up for people who might want to jump off. But do you remember what you were talking about?
No, you were asking me about what video topics I have, and
I was before that because I used that to kind of wrap up. Crap, who remembers
Penelope?
Oh yeah, Penelope. Let's go back there. Yeah, because I've not had Penelope stuff at all. I maybe have one of their things in one of the 80 craft whiskeys I've had, but I don't remember. So, have you had Penelope at all, Brian?
Oh, no, it's a brand I've had like not a lot about.
Heard good things. As you said, Blake releases a decent amount of selections from Penelope. People in the chat, what are your thoughts? Cameron from Drums and Drams, he had done a video on a rosé finish, which if you're telling me what kind of cask should you finish bourbon in, I would never tell you rosé. Like you just got to like a really delicate wine. Like you can throw that in. Probably not. It doesn't feel like those flavors should match like the acidity of a rosé against a bourbon. I can see doing rosé and wine, but not bourbon so much. But hey, they did it. But they've also got cask strength bourbon, standard release. I know I could go down the street and get the cask strength bourbon from a local store. I just haven't, against everything else I could buy, it hasn't risen to the level where I'm like, oh, I should buy it now. So, Michael says that rosé release is really fun. Brad says he really wants to try the rosé. Looked at it for a minute yesterday at Amon's. Yeah, it's one of those I would try for sure. Like probably a really unique experience. But I would bet against it being very good. Oh my gosh. So this is where I had poured a little Four Roses 2020. The nose on it is extraordinary. It's ridiculously good.
Yeah, I was one that favored the 19 over the 20, but then it was a couple of weeks ago I went back to the 20 for the first time in a little bit, and I was like,
it's got some delicious oak and spiciness to balance and a little fruit. It's not sort of classic Four Roses, but man, yeah, no hate on the Drew P part related to that 2020 Four Roses LE.
Man, we didn't really. So I know you said we wrapped up, but we didn't talk about like hot whiskey summer about like what's on the immediate horizon.
Hot whiskey fall. That's hot whiskey fall.
Well, it's hot whiskey fall, but last year we're just a couple of weeks away from Four Roses announcing their 2021 release. And dude, I am so skunked as a Four Roses fan.
You'll get it too. I know you'll find a way to get it.
It is well.
My hope is lucky.
My hope is that the store that I go to, like, to me, I don't care about any of the Weller stuff. I don't care about any of the Buffalo Trace stuff that comes out. Don't need it. Don't need it. Don't want it.
Though.
All I
take
want.
It off your hands.
All I want is just save me Four Roses. Just save me Four Roses.
I think I would agree with you. Is like that would be the one I would choose. Generally, we'll see what they release this year. I'm curious to see what the specs are. Same. Of course, Kyle let us try William LaRue Weller. That was the first time I ever tried it. Was when we got together with Kyle for the Starlight pick, and that was very good. Like, don't get me wrong, Stag, amazing. William LaRue Weller, amazing. But I just enjoy the really complex flavor profile of the Four Roses limited editions. Like, it's just different, I feel like you can capture the oaky ride bourbon in JT or GTS, like the Discovery series from Bardstown. It's not a 1-to-1 on Stag, but like, for instance, I have this old Carter Batch 5, got in trade locally. Really, I was generous and allowed me to take half of his bottle in exchange for one of our barrel picks. This is well-aged MGP, and it's really good. I think it's George C. Stag level. So my point is, like, you can kind of get things that are like, well, that's kind of similar. But there's nothing like a Four Roses LE. There's nothing I can be like, oh, that's a good substitute for Four Roses small batch LE, or even the Four Roses Al Young. There's just nothing else like that stuff.
And I've even tried it with the single barrels. Sometimes I'm like, if I'm like thinking about trade, I'm like, is a LE worth trading for a single barrel? It's apples and oranges, even though it's the same distillery, because a single barrel will do like one thing real well. In the blends, just
so good. Steve had just asked about Bullet Blender Select. Steve, I've talked about this a couple times. I have a video, a couple
Four
videos.
Roses.
Well, we have no idea what's in it.
Four Roses.
We actually have no idea. That's been actually quasi debunked.
No. Yeah, they just have 5 yeast strains at 21% rye and 36% rye. That's not Four Roses. Not Four Roses.
Anyway, bottom line is I want to get another one of these, and I actually didn't see one when I was down in Kentucky. Bummer. It's really good. So I recommend, if somebody does come across Bullet Blender Select, pick it up. Totally worth getting. Very delicious, and I would like another one. Oh, my cork is kind of shrinking. That's not great. Yeah, it's a loose fit. I am out of things to talk about. I'm spent. I mean, of course, I'm looking forward to the fall releases, but I mean, honestly, I hope to get lucky once. Of all the, like, Parker's, Four Roses, Old Forester, Buffalo Trace.
Yeah, there's that, and then
I only think I'll probably get. I would imagine I'll get one bottle from all of that.
And every year on the 2nd, that's
Easy, Tiger.
George Garvin's birthday, right? So
the 2nd of what? September.
So that's when Birthday Bourbon releases every year. So we're within 1 month, not quite September yet. So yeah.
So Brad Harris, another good question. If you guys have more questions, great. We'll go as long as you want to ask questions. Hold on. All right. Whew. What Cat's Eye have we tried? So Cat's Eye, I've not had any of their own distillate, but I have 2.
I don't know that I've tried any Cat's Eye either.
You have a sample.
Oh yeah.
So I have the light whiskey. This is a 16-year-old light whiskey, and then this is a Polish rye that is aged in port wine casks. Both of these are great. They're really, really
I've had a
good.
younger Obtainium as well. Then my buddy let me try.
Yeah, so I'd say generally, if you have an opportunity to get one of their Obtainium, this is their source stuff. Gene Nassif is the dude over there who I've not met, but he's doing a good job. He's doing a good job with what he's picking, and he's picking stuff I think that he's getting at good prices, a la light whiskey, but he's getting stuff that tastes great. So that dude is a hero in terms of value purchasing. Tom says, do we have more channel news? Well, we had mentioned before that, we've got the Middle West pick is done. We're just trying to get that one available for purchase. August 28th is our pick with the Dancing Goat folks here in Wisconsin. That you guys have probably
2 days after my birthday, y'all. 2 days after my birthday.
Cask Strength Rye. So we could do a Cask Strength Rye, but
do I have a sample of that in my box?
You do, yes.
Okay, hold on. Here's the deal. I've not tried this. Hold on. While we're here, how about I pour a little bit of this then?
Yeah, here we go. I mentioned it tastes like Christmas. I mentioned it tastes like a rye that's also a well-aged gin. So very unique. So I'm curious to see what Brian thinks about this. But Dancing Goat also, they're going to be releasing some other products, and none of them have been announced, but they're going to let us taste. So we may be able to bring something truly one of a kind.
Is this Old Carter Batch 5 what you were just talking about?
Yeah, dude. Oh, dude, it is legitimate. Yeah.
Obtaining light, dude. Everything you're talking about is in this box. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so there are a couple things. Hold on. Go back to the thing what did you just say about something different?
Oh, I said the folks at Dancing Goat are going to let us taste some of their new products they have coming out that they haven't released yet. So we may be able to do a barrel pick of one of their new things.
I'm gonna do a tiny taste. Just a tiny taste. Okay. Yeah, is this the group that does like the 6-year MGP rise?
No, these are their own. This is their own distillate. Like an MGP pick would be fine, but I also
reminds me of
good craft whiskeys. I want to do good craft.
Immediately off the nose, it kind of reminds me of Sagamore.
Yeah, but Sagamore up to this point has only been releasing. They haven't released their own stuff yet. So.
It's like pleasant dill on the nose.
So think about the way I think about it is if you think about juniper berries and pine, it's definitely very, very Christmassy. It's Christmas in a drink.
Yeah, it's potent. It's potent. Yes, sir. Eric is saying, is your birthday August 26th? Eric, yes. My birthday is August 26th.
My birthday is National Coffee Day every year, September 29th, which is pretty awesome.
Dude, this limousine's pretty fire.
In what way?
If you just want a bold rye that's just hey, I'm a rye. I've got baking spice and some cake and some candied ginger and
citrus, yeah.
All that. That's that with a little bit of toast in the finish.
Yeah, it's sweet enough too, where it can balance. It's you take all those notes, which kind of sit here like this, and then the sweetness is whoo. So Tom throws this there's this awesome comment. What are the last 4 digits of your social? What's your birthday? And what's your home address? All right. I'm going to charge some bourbon to your account.
All right. Now, one more thing I want to try because we did the interview. And Eric, no way. Dude, High Noon Sunset, cheers to you, dude. I want to try this J. Henry. Because that's another just spoiler, that's another pick that we have on the
we're on the
horizon.
list. We're on the list. I would love, dude, if we pull a barrel out of there, I'm confident it would be really, really killer. That pick from Woodman's is fine. Well, it's pretty good. It's not extraordinary. I think we can pull better out of there.
Smells like corn. Smells like some good corn.
Anyway.
This is like in coffee equivalent. This is like the most Kenyan bourbon that I've had.
Interesting.
It is full of corn.
So when you say full of corn, I think Dickel is full of corn, and that tastes nothing like Dickel. It smells nothing like Dickel. I think corn pudding when you say corn, but now
I mean raw corn. It tastes like the grain, or it smells and tastes like the grain. I actually really like that. Eric,
I see what you're saying now, actually.
It tastes like the legitimate grain of corn. corn, and it's I don't like as a bourbon drinker. It's not my favorite, but because of where it comes from, intriguing. Eric McFarland, barrel pick etiquette question. If you're on a barrel pick and the distillery excitedly says you have to try this barrel, you do and think it sucks. How do you tell them without telling them? You just change the subject back to your own barrels.
Yeah, I really like the other barrel. Like, oh, this is interesting. What I would say, cause you don't want to be a douchebag. Like,
super. That's super fun. Keep me posted on when that releases. Back to the topic.
I would just say, like, I prefer the other one. Like, here's what I taste in that. So if I didn't like it, I would tell them what I tasted and be like, I kind of prefer the other one even. Like, I think you got some other stuff but each palate is different. So I wouldn't be like, well, you're wrong or it's terrible. If I was doing a review on the channel, I may be like, this is not good. I don't like it. But in that moment, that's not going to do it. That's not helpful.
Honestly, a lot of times when that happens, like if that happened at Starlight, I usually would press on them and ask them what it is they liked about it. I just trying to figure out what it is.
Yeah.
Try and figure out what it is specifically that they find unique about it that they wanted to share it with us or share it with me or whatever it is. And just to see.
All right. Any other questions, topics, things you guys want us to shazat about before we sign off here? As we rapidly approach the 2-hour mark. As we get quiet. Why is everybody being quiet?
I think everyone's falling asleep, dude.
No, it's good. We had a great show, highly engaged, a lot of fun. Nation at its finest, really. So, yeah, lots more content coming up from my Kentucky trip. Gosh, we got Evan Williams Bourbon Experience. We got Willet, which is going to be super dank video.
Was just there today.
Bardstown Bourbon Company, which is also going to be a highly trill video. And then golf, we'll see. I realized I lost half of my golf videos, which Tom will be thrilled about. We had a great time golfing. I also sucked, though, so I wasn't exactly eager to show you guys how badly I sucked. But the golf courses were lovely. It was a bummer that half those files got corrupted. I'm not sure how. I mentioned I think Tom maybe sabotaged it when we were doing the barrel pick. He just took my GoPro and maybe beat it against the still at Middle West. But whatever. That's it. That's all I got. That was a fun episode for sure. Y'all, thanks for tuning in. We had over 100 tonight, which is awesome. 62 still hanging in. So if you didn't catch all of it, go back and rewatch it. That would be rad.
There's a couple outline questions. So OH had a couple comments back. Had said, "What old Carter bourbon rye or American whiskeys have you tried other than Bourbon Batch 5?" And then Steve had asked if we're fans of blenders like Smoke Wagon, Barrel, and then OH again, kind of below. Kind of like re-jostled some of those things.
Okay, gosh. Well, yeah, those are great questions. It's like whole episodes.
Dude, Smoke Wagon. Dude, I'm on board. Like, so I want to go back to the question I was talking about like MGP, like OKI in Nashville. What's weird is that this OKI, those Nashville barrel companies, these are like $80 products, but that Smoke Wagon uncut, unfiltered,
$80.
Dude, that's No, it's like on Seal Box. It was like $64, man.
Did you get another one? I tried to get one of the clear bottles today, but they were already sold out. No, I didn't get it.
Didn't get it. Yeah. But I'm a big fan of I was pleasantly surprised by that. Barrel, you've had more barrel than I've had.
Yeah, I'm a big barrel fan. Generally, the Dovetail I like. I've not had their ryes. I've not had the vatted malts. But their bourbons generally are good. I've not had something from barrel that I disliked. But what I'd say watch out for is they do a lot of barrel picks with Dickel or Tennessee juice. So be careful because those are $100, $90 to $100 for Tennessee whiskey. It may be phenomenal. But try and taste it before you buy it. That's all I'd say. I've had a couple 3 batches of their bourbon. Loved them all. I've got one here. I think batch 26. Really enjoy it. Very orange. But it's still good. Old Carter. I've had batch 5. I've also had an American whiskey that was just candied lemon. It was unbelievably lemony. I've never had a whiskey that was so lemony, but it was so sweet. So not bad at all.
Yeah, I've not really kept track with Old Carter, but I've had probably 3 batches of their rye. I've had a couple bourbons, and I've had a slew of their American whiskeys. I actually competed in the Coffee and Good Spirits competition with their batch 1 American whiskey. I'm sorry, take it back. I competed. Wait, was it their American whiskey? It was 12-year. Yeah, it was their American whiskey. Yeah, it was the first time then they came out with their 12-year American whiskey. I competed with that, and man, nothing like putting 138 proof spirit in your coffee cocktail to light things up. Yeah, Old Carter. That's a brand that I feel like I just can't keep up with, or I haven't chosen to keep
Yeah,
up
they
with.
don't release that many releases. It's not that hard to keep up with. It's never been released in Wisconsin, at least as far as I'm aware of. It may be very minimal quantities, but I haven't had the chance to buy any. So I've just recently was introduced to their products.
And as of late, it seems like they've just been hitting some fire stuff, kind of like they used to do with Kentucky Owl, which is surprising given the fact that Kentucky Owl lost Dixon and now is just going to be like a... So it looks like Old Carter in the end has won.
So did what do you mean? What do you mean they won? Like because of why?
Well, so
I know Dixon lost Kentucky Owl, but
as I understand,
I mean Kentucky Owl lost Dixon or whatever.
As I understand it, Dixon and the Carters were involved in Kentucky Owl. Oh. It was sold to Stoli, and Dixon stayed on as like the brand, the face, the contributor to Kentucky Owl, while the Carters restarted Old Carter, similarly to what Kentucky Owl was. Premium product, right? These, like what Steve is saying, this $200, $150, but very little information out about it store.
Okay. So yeah, Old Carter generally has been quite good. I've never heard a bad thing about Old Carter. I know batch 6 bourbon was Tennessee, and was not met with the high regard that batch 5 was met with. Take that for what it's worth. But I've never heard of anybody buying an Old Carter bottle and regretting it. So that's it. We got to hang it up here. I got to get to bed.
Oh, dude.
What do you got there?
I just took a little nip of that batch 5 for the first time.
Oh yeah, it's legit. it's phenomenal. You know what? Let's wrap that up. Let's end with that, Brian. Give yourself a little taste. I'll pour myself a smidge here.
Oh, we're going for it. Yeah. So Tim is saying an Old Carter storefront. Yes, Tom. Old Carter is presenting themselves with a storefront right next to Justin's House of Bourbon, downtown Louisville.
Nice.
They already have their like little back areas behind Justin's House of Bourbon, but oh man, there's not a lot in here. I'll pour a little bit and I'll save a little bit. Oh
yeah, I'm doing micro pours here, but so this is 115.1 proof, only 1,648 bottles. We don't have an age statement, but we know it's 100% Indiana bourbon.
Dude, let me tell you something too. Today, when I went to my store, and I tried that OKI, my second pour, I had another of barrel 4 of the 2019 King of Kentucky, which is my favorite barrel of the 2019 King of Kentucky's. God, so that bottle is lights out, dude. It is lights out. One of my favorite bottles. One of my top 5 all time.
Nice. Well, I want you. So I'm just going to be quiet and I'm going to listen to you taste this for the first time.
All right.
So give us the rundown.
All right, hold on. I'm on the pressure.
Yeah. Live tasting. You've seen it
herbal.
Here first.
It's I feel like it's pretty herbal on the nose. It has it's some citrus. It has some like brown butter, which is intriguing. Gosh. It's got some oak and leather, but it's not as prominent as some pours can be on the nose. It's pretty deep in there behind like brown sugar and brown butter.
Yeah, you mentioned the citrus. It's
Citrus
layered.
and herbal are more on the front for sure. Like some lemon oil, a little bit of orange. I'm going to go into a taste and see if that doesn't open up the nose a little bit. Again, I don't have a ton in this glass, but dude, the glass is like, it's like wine-soaked fruits leading the sips, and then it moves into brown sugar.
Just sits there. Yeah, it's just like it just keeps going. It's nuts.
That wine-soaked, I don't know if that's an identifiable note to some people, but that the wine skin,
yeah, like
the wine skin or the wine-soaked fruits, man, gosh, it's so good. That's one of my favorite things to run into. And to be fair, that's a note that I've been running into in like this and this. It has that wine-soaked fruit note. It's just a little younger. It has a dry, like green grape kind of quality, or excuse me, green apple type quality to it. It's got a lingering kind of, there's a spice that lingers on the tip of the tongue that's
go
like
back
tobacco.
To the nose. Yeah, go back to the nose. Like it's that nose again is more like when it sits there and opens up in the glass, it's almost cedary. Like it's almost like
I could see that, and it's got some of those green grape, green banana, green apple type notes on the nose as well. A little bit more tobacco's there, more brown sugar is there as well. But dude, that brown butter note is intriguing. I don't know if you get that at all, but there's like a brown butter note that's pretty fun.
Yeah, I don't think I would have dialed into that. I mean, I think it's a sort of rich. There's like a touch of salinity, and kind of burn fats that I think you're kind of alluding to. But I wouldn't have picked it up if you hadn't said anything. But anyway, when I tasted this, I was like, "This is so good."
Wine-soaked fruits, strike of spice and citrus, and then leather, tobacco, wood.
Yeah, the finish is like the older whiskey, like the barrel influence shows up on the finish. So I think if people like listen to me taste, I love when there's like I get this, and then I get this, and then it goes to this. Like that experience to me is really fun. And so like when I taste something like that where I'm just like my brain kind of explodes, I get really jazzed about it, and that's what happened with this whiskey. Yeah. And so I think my friend who traded me for it was just like he even said this. He said, "You're going to appreciate this way more than I would."
So it has layers, but do you think that it's a very complex pour, or do you think it just has layers of the flavors that it presents?
Well, that's how I would define complexity. Is that like you laid out 8 different tasting notes that are very different, versus like I get caramel and I get butterscotch with a hint of oak. And it's like, well, that's like the Henry McKenna I have open is kind of like that. And it's delicious, but it's really good. And that's kind of it. It's like, it's really good, but it's not legendary. But that, up front, it tastes like this. On the nose, it's kind of like this, but then it's different on the finish. And like when all those notes are positive and there's a high level of variation, it just like leaves me searching the whiskey. And that's an experience that I absolutely dig. And I would call that complexity. Like the fact that it's not straightforward. Like complexity is the absence of, it's nuance. It's not pop. So that's it. That's all I got. How would you define complexity?
I would say that layers and depth are pretty similar to one another, meaning that you can easily pull things apart. But I think that it's repeatable every time you taste it. Complexity to me, I think, means that every time you sip it, you start noticing more and more to the layers.
Okay. That's not how I would have defined it initially, but I think that's valid.
But I don't know exactly because I don't have any more. I didn't pour the whole thing, and so I don't know I don't know if it changes the more that I sit on it, which I'm sure it would. But yes, very tasty.
All right. Nation, hope you dug that. Hope you dug the show. Thanks for, again, hanging out with us. Tons of fun. Be sure to...
And some new folks, too. So, hey, guys, we try and do this
tonight.
Every Thursday. Just chit-chat.
We're like 50%. We're basically 50% on Thursday.
In addition to our content, I mean, in a perfect world, we would have Drew P on Mondays, AbandonBourbon on Tuesdays, podcast drop if we line somebody up on Wednesdays, live stream on Thursdays. There's injury-proof content always happening.
Always.
And that's what we try and do for you, Neat Nation. But
you're welcome.
If you don't catch any of that stuff, I mean, definitely you should catch our videos. They're always archived there for you on the tubes.
And at this point, there's a decent amount of live streams and videos. Like if you're new to the channels, just get down in the show notes below and subscribe to my channel, Brian's channel, and you're going to be watching for days, catching up, and you'll have a good time, I'm sure.
But we love Thursday Night Lives. So
yeah, it's like a passion project. We'll call it that. So thanks, squad. Hope you guys have a good night. Big thanks to Tom, our glorious wrench. Thanks,
cheers, Tom.
Yeah, definitely. Cheers to you. And that's it. That's all I have. Everything else you need, following, supporting, whatever, is down in the show notes. Hope you guys have a great night. Have a nightcap of something awesome. And we'll catch you soon. For now, just stay healthy, stay safe, and remember to keep it neat.
And remember that we are sponsored by High Noon Sunsets, the
dear God.